Right now, though, we're going to talk to British public speaker David Icke, a man who believes that the Brotherhood originates from reptilians. He'll be telling us who really is controlling the world.
It says you like to talk about who and what is really controlling the world. Now, for a lot of us, that would be, there must be politicians and bankers. But does it go higher and deeper than that?
Well, 21 years ago, I was reading the news, sitting in studios like this, saying hello, good evening, welcome, and my life transformed. It took a long time to talk about, but it did, and it set me on a journey of an amazing synchronistic journey of information and people and experiences coming to me, which made it very clear, and 21 years later, my goodness me, the evidence for it, the fine detail evidence is overwhelming, that actually a very few people are directing life on this planet. It's about 13 families and all the offshoot networks that go from them. And they sit on top of a global network that dictates to every country. And it's the way they've done it is this, and this is why politicians are not the point where decisions are made. They are the here today, gone tomorrow vehicles for those decisions made in the shadows to become changes in society through legislation. It's like if you think of a transnational corporation like McDonald's, you've got the headquarters of McDonald's, and that dictates to all the subsidiaries of McDonald's in every country. So if you go into a McDonald's in Moscow or Melbourne or anywhere, Johannesburg, you're going into the same McDonald's. And what they've set up is a network just like that, involving bloodline families and their gophers and agents, and a secret society network.
And how long do these families go back?
They go back thousands of years. They go back into, well, a number of parts of the world, but the one that seems to be most significant is what we now call Iraq or Sumer, Mesopotamia, Babylon. And they have created this structure whereby the center of the web is in Europe, to an extent in America, but nothing like you'd think it was. To a large extent, the guns for America are loaded in Europe, and they're shot by America, and then people say it's all America. And when I say Europe, I'm not saying the governments of Europe, they're here today, gone tomorrow, politicians. I'm saying the center of this web, which is like the city of London, the financial district, Rome, Paris, Brussels, Germany. And in every country, including Australia, there is a network of families and secret societies that are the subsidiaries of that headquarters in Europe. And their job is to manipulate that country's banking system, financial system in general, politics, controlling any party that has a chance of forming a government or influencing policy, the business community, the transnationals and all that. And their job is to introduce in their sphere of influence, let's say Australia, what is dictated centrally at the center of the web.
And would we have heard of any of these families?
Well, yes, you will have heard of some of them, the House of Rothschild, the House of Rockefeller, the royal families of Europe, who are ancient bloodlines going back to the ancient world. And the center direction is dictated from this network in Europe. And in each country, their job is to introduce that in their particular sphere of influence. Now, over the last 21 years, I've been to over 55 countries researching this. And therefore, I've seen the same things being introduced in country after country at the same time, justified by the same excuses. This is where it comes from. This is where the coordination comes from. And the idea is this, quite simply. When there's a few of you, and compared with the global population, we're talking a very, very few, to get more and more power, you have to constantly centralize decision-making. And this is why, at one point, we had a tribal situation where people in the tribe decided what the tribe would do. Then lots and lots of tribes were brought together under what we call nations, and now a center point is dictating to all the former tribes. And now in Europe, and they want it in every part of the world, including this part of the world, through APEC and ASEAN, we have the European Union, which is the nations pulled together, dictated from a central point. And where they want to go in this, and it's been going like this for so long, people have now given it a name for decades, globalization. That's what it is, centralization of power in all areas of our lives. And the more you centralize power, the more power you have at the center to centralize even quicker, and the whole thing goes on even faster. And what they want is this, eventually, and they're already talking about it now. We've reached that stage. They want a world government that would dictate to every country. They want a world central bank that would dictate all global finance. The Roman Church has just suggested it, and so is this House of Rothschild billionaire gopher called George Soros. He's suggested the same thing, and when he says it, it's the Rothschilds speaking. They want a world currency which would not be cash. It would be a single electronic currency. This is about control. And the other thing they want, and this is very, very relevant to current events, is they want a world army. And what we've seen with Libya and these other countries that have been invaded is exactly the official situation they want to go to, where the world army is called in by the world government to go and sort out anybody who is not, taking orders.
So like the invasion of Libya, that was the Buckingham Palace and the Rothschilds and the other families. They decided that.
Absolutely.
And how much of your information comes from research compared with having these spiritual revelations that tell you?
The level we're talking about now, 100% research. When you've been to 55 countries and you've worked on this full time for 21 years, and not only that, when you see, as is happening now, my books from the mid-90s being read on the television news, in effect, in news stories that are happening. If people read a book I wrote in 1994, came out in 95, called And the Truth Shall Set You Free, and then they look at current events, they'll be shocked. This is not because I'm a prophet or sitting in a darkened room pulling it from the ether. It's that once you access, and the documents exist if you do the research and you meet the right people that can pass them on to you.
But you have had spiritual revelations, haven't you?
Oh yes, I have, and that, well, what you call spiritual revelations, yes, but they have been part of my own personal journey that's awakened me to the fact that the world is very different to the one that we are told we are experiencing. Thus, your attitude changes and your mind opens to all possibilities instead of being closed.
Is that explainable in words, what a spiritual revelation is like?
Not in the time we've got here. I mean, you go through profound changes in your perception of reality, and basically what you're doing is opening your mind.
Some of the, like, people would say, oh yeah, politicians are powerful and that bankers are powerful. They'd agree with you on that. But some of the things you bring up, like, say, the Freemasons or secret societies, they'd say, nah, they're just...
So why are they secret societies?
They're just, they're not powerful. They don't pull
Why are
strings.
they secret societies? Why aren't they open societies? Why do they have degrees within the secret societies, which means even the people on the lower degrees within a secret society, who are Freemasons or Knights of Malta or Knights Templar, whichever you're talking about, even within the same secret society, people on lower degrees do not know what the higher degrees know. The vast majority of people, if you had, say all Freemasons were in on the plot, I mean, it would be out from, there'll be so many holes in the dike, because these people have families and children and grandchildren as well, who are going to have to live in the world these guys want to create. So therefore, they'll be spilling the beans. So you keep it fiercely compartmentalized, and you only give the real knowledge to people you know are absolutely watertight safe, are in favor of what you're trying to do, and thus will not spill the beans.
What about another thing you talk about, which is like satanic cults? Do they really exist?
Oh, absolutely they do. It's something that these bloodlines have been doing for thousands of years, right back into the ancient world. And, at one point, because of the way that humanity was at that time, they could do it openly. I mean, no one has a problem with the fact that, there was sacrifice to the gods and all this stuff in the ancient world, and they sacrificed animals, children, it's all there. The point is, though, these particular bloodlines never stopped. The difference is they can't do it openly anymore. Of course they can't.
But they still do it behind closed doors.
Oh, absolutely.
So what, like Buckingham Palace, the Vatican, the Rothschilds, they do
big time.
Satanic rituals.
These bloodlines.
Like what?
Yeah. Well, it's a long story. This is what I talk for 9 hours. But it's something that is very, very important to them. Drinking blood is very important to them because of what the blood carries. And to get too bloody sick, but these people are sick beyond words, beyond extreme. At the point of a sacrifice, the victim is so absolutely beyond terrified that a particular adrenaline goes into the blood, and so immediately the person is sacrificed, they drink the blood with that adrenaline in it, which is like some kind of, gives them a massive high. It's like a drug to them.
Because surely my Roman Church not involved in all that.
Oh yes, absolutely, and that's,
my Roman Church.
Yes, but that you see that's not.
Why haven't they told me?
I know exactly.
The Illuminati, these are.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Roman Church, as I say in my books, is the Church of Babylon relocated. And what we need to do, Bob, is to see the difference. This is fundamentally important between the people that follow a religion and the hierarchy. This is the point. The hierarchy that control the religion, because they're not the same thing. And so it's really a situation where, you know, are we going to live what we claim to believe in, or are we going to just talk about it and then put the hierarchy first because it suits us, you know? Oh no, I don't want those people here, it's messy and all that stuff, you know. This is a time where we are at a fork in the road, and we need to choose between if we want to keep our heads down, do nothing, hope it'll all go away, brackets, it won't, and live in this global fascist communist state, which is emerging by the day. I mean, police are getting more and more brutal all the time because they're the characters that they're now hiring. Or we can come together, put religious beliefs aside, racial nonsense aside, income bracket aside, culture and colour aside, and realise that if we come together as one people and respect our different rights to have different views. I mean, crikey, someone's got a different view than me. I mean, call the police. I mean, what? It's good that we have diversity, but not diversity in the sense that it divides and rules us, because that's what they want. They want the target population constantly fighting amongst itself on religious lines, political lines, economic lines, cultural lines, national lines. And while we're doing that, they're playing us like a violin, you know. I think climate change is a gigantic hoax. It's scientific nonsense.
Cardinal Pell was right.
And even now, well, more and more, not even now, more and more people, including one who worked for the climate change department in Australia for a long time, and it was called another name before then, are coming out and saying, I was once a believer, but it's a nonsense. Have you noticed something? That there is something that is never mentioned in terms of the causes of temperature change. It's called the sun. Have you ever noticed that when you go out and the sun comes up, it gets warmer? I mean, it's a nonsense.
And so are these 13 families, do they want to perpetuate this? To what end?
Actually, it would be interesting to explain something at this point, which would make a lot of pennies drop in people, because climate change is part of this, or the alleged human-caused climate change is part of this. They have a technique which they've used for thousands of years, and it keeps working, so why change it? And it's used on us now at different levels of society all the time, every day. And I gave it the name many years ago, problem, reaction, solution. And it works like this. You want to change society in a way that you know that if you just announced it openly, you'd get a massive reaction against you. What are you doing that for? We're not having that, like more and more surveillance, more and more control, carbon taxation and all this stuff that comes in. So you don't just announce it openly, you play problem, reaction, solution. Stage one, you create a problem. It could be a terrorist attack like 9/11. It could be an economic crash like 2008 and since. It could be a government crash, whatever. Whatever problem you can offer a solution to that would advance your agenda. So stage one, you covertly create a problem. You then tell the public through an unquestioning, and I worked in it for a long time, unquestioning mainstream media, the version of the problem you want them to believe, i.e. 9/11 was caused or orchestrated by a guy in a cave in Afghanistan. I hope he had a mobile phone with a big battery. You know, the economic crash was caused by this or that and what have you. And then you want a reaction at stage 2 from the public of fear, of outrage, and something to the effect of something must be done. What are you going to do about this problem? And then those who've covertly created the problem got that reaction, either do something or accepting what they suggest they have to do. When Tony Blair said, and if ever there's a half-truth in a Tony Blair speech, it's a typing error. We said one thing that was true, because he knew it was true. That is, the world changed on 9/11. Why? Because it was meant to change. All this police state, all these wars, they all come from that original driving force called 9/11, and that's why the world's changed. So without 9/11, all this stuff would not have been justified. So all these people that are pushing these wars and pushing more and more surveillance, more and more control, more and more police state, and it comes down eventually to have been triggered by one event, which was supposed to be Muslim terrorists who couldn't fly Cessnas properly, somehow manifested this unbelievable ability to fly wide-body jets in ways that a Lufthansa pilot, German airline, told me he couldn't do after 28 years of flying them. So, I mean, if one strand of the 9/11 official story is true, then this strand and that strand can't be true. A 15-year-old or less could take it apart. The mainstream media, unfortunately, don't seem able to or are unwilling to.
Who are the powerful families in Australia?
Well, in the end, you know, the Rothschild influence is everywhere. And, you know, if you look at people in Australia will know the families better than I will, having the fact that I don't live here. But you look at the major families that are influential in media ownership, in corporation ownership, in manipulating or being part of the political system, and there you're going to see the families.
Like the Murdochs, maybe?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, dear, Murdoch. What? Absolutely. And what do the Murdochs of this world control? They control so much of the information that people receive. Now, from what do people get their perceptions of the world, perceptions of themselves, and perceptions of current events from? The perceived information about what's going on. If you make that tilted, and it's massively tilted, so you give a certain version of what's going on and ignore the rest, i.e. you take an American government under George Bush and a British government under Tony Blair, who provably lied through their teeth about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And it's coming out more and more in these various inquiries that they did it absolutely knowingly, so they did. They were the same people that told us the official story of 9/11. So we've got a media that says, oh yeah, they did lie over weapons. Yes, mate. But the same people are telling you the official story of 9/11, and you're repeating it as if it's official history. This is what I mean, that if you control the information that people receive, you dictate, unless they really are open-minded people that do their own research, you're dictating their perception.
Now, there's anti-globalization protesters who would generally agree with you, and then they say you take it too far when you talk about the 13 families, because you go back and then it's like, do they come from another planet? Were they another life form? Were they lizards? And
lizards, that's right. I was
and
waiting for the lizards.
that kind of throws people off.
Well, let me say this. I don't care. You know why? I'm interested in the truth. And the truth is what I will pursue. And the truth, as the information I've come across makes me see it, is what I will communicate. And I would say to the G8 and G20 and globalization protesters, it's not me that's gone too far. It's you that's not gone far enough. When you see the incredible coordination of the attacks on humanity, in terms of finance, in terms of governments, in terms of the stuff in food and water. You got fluoride in your water in Melbourne. and in Sydney.
But what's that got to do with like creatures from other planets?
Well,
then?
never mind creatures from other planets. I mean, you know, that's a very, very deep subject. And as I told your producer, if people want to talk to me for hours about it, I will. But I'm certainly not going to talk about massive concepts and stuff that take a lot of explanation. Because
we've got time.
I know you're interested, but you know, I ain't going to have the time here to talk about it at the length that is necessary to explain it in a logical fashion. Thus, what's the point? People can get the fine detail in the books if they want. But the thing is that we are looking at this incredible attack on humanity, stuff in the water. What does fluoride matter? I tell you what fluoride matters. It was used in the concentration camps in Germany to suppress and make more docile the inmates. It's been shown to be a suppressor of brain activity. It comes, fluoride in your water that you are drinking every day actually is a waste product of the aluminium industry. It's used in sarin nerve gas. It's used in Prozac. You know, I mean, this is the stuff they're putting in the water. Another thing, and more dentists, like the global warming scientists, who went with the official line for a long time, are now coming out and saying, actually, it's really bad for you. I mean, you know, tell people with fluorosis, that terrible discoloration of the teeth, that fluoride is good for teeth. It's not. So why would the people running Australia put this stuff in the drinking water? If people are manipulated enough to believe fluoride is good for their teeth, they're getting it in toothpaste anyway. Why would they put it in the water, giving people no choice, unless they'd use bottled water, than to drink it? Why would they do that? Why would they put chemicals and chemical concoctions in the food, massively emphasized targeting children, that changes their behavior and causes this thing called attention deficit disorder? And what do? He's got attention deficit disorder. We need to give him this mind-altering drug. Why would they do that?
Well, what's the answer to that?
Well, the answer is what I said right at the start. There is a global network which has a centre point in Europe, and it dictates global policy through its subsidiaries in each country. Now, why are the same people that are putting fluoride in your water, that are putting this rubbish in the food, also pressurizing, and sometimes through law imposing upon people, parents, that they should vaccinate their child with this rubbish to this extent before the age of 2, never mind after that? Why? Because there is, and why is it happening in every country? Because this web is coordinating it. And this is why, you know, people that get into politics who are genuine, and you'll have come across them, Bob, rarely probably, but we all have. They're the ones that never become prime minister, never get into government. It's the people that get into government that are serving this agenda because the networks manipulate them into government. Julia Gillard is not running this country for Australians. John Howard wasn't running this country for Australians. Abbott won't run this country for Australians. They run it for the cabal, and that's why we have this outrageous situation, and Australia is a wonderful example. You have this massive area of land. You have enormous resources. There are 22 million people on this massive area of land with this massive resources. And there's people sleeping rough in the streets. There's people going without food. There's people going without basics. What on earth is going on if this country is run for the people of Australia and not run for the people controlling Australia?
Who's the king of the world?
Well, you know,
so to speak.
The House of Rothschild is absolutely
But is there
right in there. Well, you know, the thing is, Bob, that you go on this journey of uncovering, and what you're kind of doing symbolically is you're removing the skins on the onion, and you reach a point where you see Rothschilds, Rockefeller, the royal families of Europe, and that sort of
stuff. But not
stuff.
Her Majesty the Queen, surely.
Of course, that whole family's involved in it.
Disillusioned.
Well, you know the royal family. And it came out in the mainstream media this week, and it's been in my books for years. They are related to Vlad Dracul and the original Dracula family from Transylvania. I mean, yes. I mean, Prince Charles this week has come out starting a campaign to save forests in Transylvania because I mean it came out in the story in the British mainstream media that because they are genetically related to these people. And you look what Vlad Dracul was bloody doing?
Vlad the Impaler.
Vlad the Impaler. He was one of history's greatest blood drinkers. This is what these bloodlines do.
Can we do anything? Are you not only exposing, but you're also suggesting a final solution?
Well, what is starting to happen with these protests all around the world is something I've been calling for years, which is non-compliance. I call it the non-comply dance, where you don't comply with your own enslavement. Because people say, well, they passed the law, so you've got to obey the law. Excuse me. What if they passed a law that they're going to take your children away and they can take it? Would you obey that law? Well, no. Well, there's a line then where we can where you say that you won't cross. Well, let's just see where this line really should be. And if we're saying you can't not obey the law, then we might as well just put the shackles and the chains on now, because we're saying that when a group of people in different parties that are basically masks on the same face, but when they pass a law in Parliament which you've had no say over, and like with Gillard and the carbon tax, you can say that you will never introduce a carbon tax, and then you can go and do it. So elections are a waste of time, because whatever they tell you they'll do to get your vote, they ain't got to do anyway. I mean, you had a referendum about the carbon tax, it would have got wiped off the screen. What we need to say is, does this law that this cabal in each country is passing, does it respect human dignity? Does it respect human fairness? Does it respect human justice? And if it doesn't, is this law aimed at taking freedoms away? And if the answer is to the fact that it is, then we should not obey it. And what we're seeing now is large numbers of people around the world, because of their experience in their own lives, are now seeing, actually, that there is and this is where the 99.1% came from, there is a tiny number of people running their lives. And it's not just financially, although that's a major way that they do it.